Hey guys, so today I'm going to be going over the events that happen in the book The Scorch Trials. For those of you that don't know, The Scorch Trials is the sequel, follow-up, whatever you want to call it, of The Maze Runner. The Maze Runner did have some plot points that affect The Scorch Trials, so I'm going to run over a short story synopsis of The Maze Runner and get you guys all caught up. Okay, so The Maze Runner starts off with a teenage-ish boy who wakes up in a giant metal box that seems to be moving upwards. The boy remembers nothing except for his name, Thomas. When the box completes its almost never-ending journey upwards, Thomas is greeted by a bunch of other guys who are in the same as him, and they had absolutely no recollections of their past before they woke up in the box, months and even years before Thomas. These newfound friends inform Thomas that he has arrived in the Glade, a makeshift town of sorts surrounded by a gigantic stone maze. The maze's walls close at night and the stone walls of the maze begin to move. This means that it's almost impossible for the so-called gladers to map out the maze. They do attempt it though, and this is the job given to the runners. Gladers should run around the maze attempting to map it out, hoping for some type of pattern to arise. They also learn that the maze is run by a company called Wicked, a company that they know absolutely nothing about. The next day, the Glade is greeted by their first ever girl, Teresa. Thomas and Teresa learn that the two of them can telepathically communicate, but none of the other Gladers can. This is basically all you need to know for the next book, except for the fact that they do, spoiler in 3, 2, 1, eventually get out of the maze, where Special Ops forces take them away from Wicked's facilities and bring them into a bunker, where Teresa and Thomas are separated because boys and girls shouldn't sleep together in the same room. They fall asleep in a place with barred windows, and the book ends with a huge cliffhanger of where they are and why they were there. And now we have the events of the Scorch Trials. Thomas wakes up with Teresa screaming in his head that something was wrong, and then only hearing silence. Thomas begins to worry about Teresa and tries to wake the other Gladers up, when suddenly the windows of the room they were sleeping in break open with crazy-eyed people clawing through the bars, yelling, "I'm a crank," and freaking out all of the Gladers. They then try to go find Teresa, and instead find a boy named Eris, who was put in Teresa's spot around the time that Thomas heard Teresa's distress call. A man that the Gladers nickname Ratman tells them that they need to continue on to the second phase of testing by conquering the Scorch. Ratman also informs them that there was another group who already went into the Scorch, and Thomas starts to speculate that Teresa is now part of that group. They are then transported to the Scorch, a gigantic desert with temperatures that can give them sunburns within a minute. They use the supplies they have to make shawls and start their long journey across the Scorch with no idea if they would make it or not. As they are traveling, Thomas gets his first ever communication from Teresa since they were separated, that tells him to come alone to a place where they could meet. Thomas meets Teresa there, and she tells him that she is being controlled by Wicked, and that they are cutting off their telepathy. She then tells Thomas to go far away from her, and that Thomas needed to basically move on. They then make it to a city where they aren't greeted with open arms, but instead at gunpoint. After they settle their differences, Jorge tells Thomas that his entire gang is made up of cranks, or people who are infected with the disease known as the flare, that takes control of people's minds and makes them slowly go crazy. Jorge's gang, however, is not past the gone, which means the disease hasn't taken full effect on them. They continue traveling, but tagging along now are Jorge and his right-hand woman, Brenda. They continue to make their way through the treacherous desert, and eventually succeed, but not without some conflict and even betrayal. The book was really, really good, and I would recommend it to anybody no matter their interest, because it was just that good. My final review on this book is a 9 out of 10, because it was definitely one of the best. Thanks, guys. See you next week.